Oops. Oh, Blake, you're muted.
I guess it would help if I unmuted my mic here. But what is up, everyone? Welcome back. We are very excited to bring you kind of our first episode of the RunDisney Rundown. This is just a little live show we decided to do kind of with Marathon Weekend upcoming and lots of other kind of cool RunDisney news to talk about as well. We wanted to just go ahead and do a live show for that. So we're all here. We are all running different events during Marathon Weekend, and we'll hit all of that. We'll talk a little bit about training, what we're excited for, and also answer any of your questions along the way. So as I've said, and as you can see, I am not alone here. I am joined by Steve from the DCL podcast.
How you doing tonight, Blake?
Very good, very good. And also good friend of both the shows, Steve. Also Steve.
I am now officially also Steve. I like to think of myself as better Steve, but hey, whatever you want.
He is definitely the better Steve. That's in a lot of different ways. That's for sure.
Not the better runner.
We'll find out. We'll find out. You've completed a half recently. I have not. So we'll see how that goes.
But yeah. So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah. So I think we're going to try and do this as a regular thing, and we will come up with a little bit better intro just through our intro out there. So it says Coffee at the Cove, but really this is going to be a RunDisney run. I got to get the name right. RunDisney Rundown kind of show that we'll try and do on a regular basis with all the races coming up and everything like that, and just kind of market it on your channel, like Mousechan, our Facebook, our YouTube channel as well, and maybe someday we'll have our own separate channel that will rival like ABC and ESPN or something like that.
Yeah, all about RunDisney.
Well, I think we're going to talk, just kind of go over the basics. You guys just ran Wine and Dine. So you guys, we talked about it on the last show, but you guys have got some recent experience with RunDisney, right? Like,
yeah. Actually, before we do that, why don't we all just kind of hit a quick like RunDisney background? Maybe like your first race, your favorite race weekend, something along those lines.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Steve's probably run more than I have, so.
Yeah, well, I could start like a little chronological history. So the first one I ever did was back in April 2019. I did the Star Wars half. I decided to run it. Like it's one of the few that doesn't really sell out typically, or it used to not really sell out right away. And I decided about 2 months before that I'd run, which is, I do not suggest only giving yourself 2 months to run your first half marathon. And since then I've done them all, and I've done a 10K for the Princess. I've done everything else. I've done a half. I just really like that distance. And I've 2 Wine and Dines and a virtual event. I've done the last year when the Walt Disney Marathon weekend was canceled. I did the virtual half, which also happens to be my personal best. So I don't know. Maybe it's because I didn't have to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I have no idea. But yeah, so I've run the whole gamut, and I just signed up for the springtime event coming up in April. So
very cool. What's your favorite weekend?
I have really loved Wine and Dine so far. I think I've gotten really lucky with weather for that weekend. For whatever reason, both times I've run it, like a couple days before the weather will break here in Florida. It's really, really hot throughout October, and we've gotten beautiful weather. I really like the course for the half. I just think running through Animal Kingdom is awesome, and you get 3 parks for that event. Plus, I've never gone to the ticketed event after at Epcot, but that does come with your race fee, and I've heard that's a lot of fun. Also, it's just a little bit too late for me generally that day if you're running on Sunday. But eventually I'll get there. But yeah, I'd say Wine Down is probably my favorite so far.
All right, very cool. What about you, Steve?
So my wife actually ran the 5th marathon, Walt Disney World Marathon, back when it, and I should bring her on sometime to talk about that because it's so different compared to the way it is today. We should have her on to talk about that. But so she wanted to do another one. So my first one, I can't remember what year it was the 25th anniversary of the marathon weekend. Was that 2018, 2019, 2018?
17 or 18, one of the two.
Yeah. So I've only done marathon weekend. I kind of got intrigued by it when they had Run Disney out here at Disneyland. I wanted to do the Disneyland half. And after kind of learning a little bit more, I think running at Walt Disney World's a little bit better because you can go through several of the parks, especially on the half versus Disneyland. You're out on the street most of the time on the Disneyland races. No shade against it whatsoever, but I kind of got intrigued by that. We never made it down there, and we finally did that marathon weekend for the 25th. So I've run the marathon twice, and then I've done the half twice, and love marathon weekend. But I would love to do Wine and Dine. That's the one that intrigues me the most.
That was 2018. The
2018. Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of my Run Disney experience. We got a couple comments. Katie says 2013 January half was my first. Wine and Dine is my favorite too. So
cool. Yeah. So I can't even remember what year it was, but my first race weekend was actually Princess.
Oh wow!
Of all the race weekends,
Mm-hmm.
and I was definitely hooked from there. It was whatever year was the first year Star Wars because we signed up or we upgraded to the challenge at Princess Weekend because they hadn't sold out yet. But since then, I have ran all of the weekends multiple times. I think, well, I was perfect in Star Wars, so that would have been 4 times. And then Marathon Weekend is actually the weekend I have ran the least amount of times. This will be my 3rd time coming up. But it might actually be my favorite weekend now, just because it's kind of the weekend that we all seem to congregate to now. So it's just exciting getting to meet up with everyone. It's pretty much the weekend that like everyone is doing and everyone's going to be there.
Yeah, it seems like it this year too. I'm definitely looking forward to that for sure.
It definitely has the most race options, I guess, because they got the marathon in there. Although I'm kind of intrigued by the spring. What do they call it?
Springtime surprise.
Yeah, the springtime surprise and we'll talk about that I know a little bit later. But I'm totally intrigued by that. I'd like to. I'm not going to make it this year, but next year hopefully.
Yeah, I'm glad they're offering something different. I'm fine with it. I mean, Star Wars weekend was okay. My biggest problem with that weekend is it was by far the warmest race that I ran. Which, when I ran it back in 2019, it was so unbelievably hot. But yeah, November, January seems to be a little bit safer. Although Princess a couple years ago was freezing.
2019.
Oh my God, it was so cold.
That was so cold.
It was one of the coldest days we've had in Florida in the time that I've lived here, like the 5 years.
Especially the 10K was particularly awful.
And that's what I ran. Yeah, that day.
Yeah.
It was an unusual thing, but I've had fun at all the weekends.
So we got a couple more comments here. Like Stephanie says, first was Star Wars for me. And then Jeff says, I have only done the Goofy Challenge in 2019. I've ran the virtual Star Wars. I guess a couple of us have done some virtual stuff too. I would like to run the Wine and Dine, but I live in North Carolina. I'm running Dopey this year, 2022. So you'll be out there with Lake running Dopey, Jeff.
Let's go Dopey. Yeah, definitely. Make sure to say hi if you see any of us on any of the days. But I will be at all the races doing Dopey, so I'll be out there. And I'm going to film again. I'm going to film all the races.
God bless those Dopey folks.
Exactly.
I'm excited. It'll be an adventure.
I mean, I don't know if I could walk them all. Never mind run them all. The compound fatigue just from getting up that early would just eventually make me delirious. But it's fun to spectate too. I spectated the marathon a couple times, giving out beers. That was fun.
I had a lot of fun. Last year, I spectated everyone doing the half, and I got to pretty much watch everyone finish and just like hang out with people at the end. And that was a ton of fun too.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, for sure. The energy's good.
Yeah. While we're on that, obviously I'm running Dopey, and then you were both running the half, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, correct. Doing the half again this year. So Donald's race.
All right. Well, Steve, do you want to kind of lead us off on our first topic here? We're going to kind of just run down marathon weekend. We'll go over the event guide, courses, all of that fun stuff. If anyone has any questions, we actually have a couple here that were also sent into us that we'll maybe hit those at the end. But feel free to drop any questions in the chat, and we'll kind of answer them along the way or as they come up.
Okay, so we'll just start with just some of the basics. We're not going to go quite as deep maybe as we did in our last video, but starting off, you have to go to the Expo to be able to pick up your race day packet. Lake, could you give us an idea of where the Expo was and what was your guys' experience picking everything up during Wine and Dine?
Yeah, so Expo is at ESPN Wide World of Sports. Honestly, I thought the Expo was very easy. I believe this is also the three building setup. Yes, it is. So basically, your Expo experience will take you to 3 different buildings. You have to go to 2 of them, and then the other one is event merch. So most of you will also be heading to the 3rd. But Building C, which is the HP Fieldhouse, is Bib Pickup, probably the most important thing. It's actually the furthest building away. It's like a quarter mile from parking. Really not too bad there. And that's going to be the C in the back here. Thank you for pulling that up. But what you'll need here is you'll need your ID, and then you will need your digital, I think it's like your digital Expo Pass, which is basically just like a screenshot saying that you've done your waiver and that you're registered for the event. You show them that, and you show them your ID still, and then you go, same thing as before, there's a flip book there with basically everyone's name and bib number, and you go and you have to sign your name, and they'll give you bib and all of that. Very similar to what it's been in the past. Nothing that new there, other than there has been issues where people have been trying to sign their digital waivers, and their whole registration just like falls off their account somehow. A couple things about that. One, if you registered a whole bunch of people, it makes you put in like everyone's individual emails. It'll actually then take that pass or take that registration and kind of link it to that email instead. So for instance, like Katie a lot of times registers me for the events because she just always gets through in like 5 minutes. Like, I kid you not, every event, she's like, oh, yeah, I'm in right away. And my thing's still spinning like, oh, yeah, you got 30 minutes to wait. Good thing you're at work. But what happened was when we went to sign the waivers, it basically sent everything back to my email because that's the email that I put through for it. So then I had to go through, and they ended up showing up on my account. But for other people, basically the registration just ghosted. If that happens, they basically had an area set up for like lost registrations, and they also had an area where you could still basically sign your bib or sign your waiver the old-fashioned way. Do you guys have anything else about Bib Pickup?
No, I guess that leads right to is it going into Building B there?
Yes.
In the athletic center, yep. Because they give you a ticket, right, to go pick up your...
So, yeah, when you get your bib, first off, if you're doing a challenge, at least for Wine and Dine, they stopped doing the pictures for verification afterwards. I'm going to assume this is probably going to stay true for Dopey and Goofy runners as well. Just, you don't take the picture beforehand. It didn't seem to be a big deal. But anyways, what we were getting at is when you get your bib, there's basically like a tear-off part that has your shirt sizes. You're going to go and take your bib and go over to Building B. This is your regular expo. This is where all of the different vendors are for basically all of your regular running and non-Run Disney specific merchandise. And they make you kind of traverse through to the back of that expo. You'll go up and they'll tear off that ticket on your bib, and you'll get your shirt or shirts depending on what races or challenges you're running. Again, very easy.
Lake, you got muted.
You got muted again, Lake.
There you go.
Sorry, my computer is having a little freak out over here. That's weird. Okay. I don't know what that's about.
You said very easy, though, for easy to pick up the stuff, I think.
Yeah, very easy to go through that whole process. Anyways.
Yeah. It's got a mind of its own tonight, I guess, huh?
Yes.
One sec.
All right. Well, we'll talk while Lake's working on that. So,
Yeah.
Anything about the merchandise, Steve, or your experience with the Wine and Dine as far as the expo goes?
Well, let me go back for a sec. So, when you're in the Visa Athletic Center and you go pick up your shirt, that's a great place to just get some last minute stuff. So, there is a Fit to Run store that's back in Disney Springs, but if you do need anything run specific, there's a lot of stuff in there. So, they generally have Aftershocks is in there, the Bone Conductor headphones, but also just little things like last time I picked up some gels for a friend who was running the challenge that weekend. So if you need some gels, some socks, I think it was a pretty rainy weekend for Wine and Dine. And if you were running more than one event and you had just like a couple pairs of run socks or just one pair of shoes and you had some wet shoes, I can tell you that blisters are absolutely no fun. And in a wet climate, in a humid climate like Florida, it's very important to have dry clothes. So great place to get some last minute stuff. It's open for multiple days. So let's say you go pick up your bib on Thursday, you can go back to that area. But just in case you left something at home, you will be able to probably find what you're looking for and more at that expo, even though it was reduced a little bit relative to events in the past. There's a few less vendors in there. So just a good little quick tip in there. So, they literally have everything for you in there. Just talking about what's in the Visa Athletic Center, Lake, and after you get your shirt before you head over to merch, if you want to indulge that. Lake knows a lot more about the merch than I do.
Some days. Yeah, so the last building, which is actually the first building you pass, and this is also if you are a Club RunDisney member, I believe this is the only building you actually have to go to, is the first building. They have their own pre-race meetup type of thing. They have a lounge and whatnot. They get access to early merchandise, all that fun stuff. But anyways, this is the Advent Health Arena. This is the first building you'll pass, and you see they always have it done up with kind of the race logos and stuff. But yeah, this is where you'll get all of the official merch, your pins, your shirts, your sweatshirts, and whatever is left if you're not there the first day or two, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you had a comment, I think on our last show, that you picked up some stuff after the race too, because a lot of times they'll have the merch shop at the end of the races, so look for that as well.
Yeah, that's probably one of my biggest hints or hacks. If they're out of something, and especially something that can be pre-purchased, look for it at the shop at the end of the race, because a lot of times that kind of stuff will end up there, especially all the pass holder stuff was sold out when we got to the expo, and I was able to find most of it after the half marathon. So I got a lot of the stuff that we ended up wanting, but not everything. There were some things that we had planned to buy that we didn't get to, and we did go to the expo the first day for Wine and Dine. One thing about merchandise is they really don't make enough for everyone to be able to buy everything they want. They want to sell out because they don't want to get hung with all of that stuff. Because if it all ends up at the discount store. So stuff will sell out. So if there's something that you really, really are going to it's going to ruin your trip if you don't get, you really do have to go that first day or two. Especially like I hear a lot of the dopey stuff. Some of the like dopey, goofy stuff ends up selling out pretty quick.
So some good tips there. Should we turn to the day of the race and just go over some tips there, or anything else about the expo, the check-in part of it?
I'm ready to move on. If anyone has any other questions about it, feel free to drop that in and we will circle back around. But yeah, we can go ahead and just kind of hit some general day race stuff.
Okay, so just a couple things that I had. Steve, you drove to the race. Did you have any problems parking as far as finding the parking lot and getting in there?
I did not drive to the race. I have driven before.
Oh, I thought you drove this time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I have driven before. I drove during Princess. We didn't stay on property. I've usually always stayed at Disney for these events. It's just so much nicer when you can get transportation to the races, particularly for the half, because you usually are in two different parking lots where you end. So you could end up parking in Epcot and end in Magic at TTC or vice versa. So then you have to go over to your car and go to your next destination. So there's a lot of road closures. Luckily, what I found is your GPS map will be updated with the road closures, to help get around. But just take a look at the map. They'll outline all the road closures in the area if you plan on driving. It's not a big deal. Like, I think you've driven before, right? To the events?
Yes, I'm trying to think. One of like I know I definitely did, but I think we've actually driven more than once though. I think a few times that we stayed at Fort Wilderness, we actually drove as well. But we actually tend to prefer the buses just because you can get on the bus and sit down, and I guess now you have to wear your mask on the bus, but we used to, eat breakfast and drink our coffee on the bus, that sort of thing. So we've always preferred it for that. Now, benefit of if you drive and you get there a little bit early and it's cold or raining or whatever, you can sit in your nice, dry, warm car and kind of chill out a little bit before you go out into the race area.
Okay, for those taking the buses, then normally they have a time associated at each one of the resorts. They say like get on the bus at 3 or something like that. Did you find that you needed to be on that first bus, or could you wait one or two buses for your race in Wine and Dine?
I tend to be on one of the earlier buses.
Okay.
But it's getting crazy because it's pushed up a half an hour now from where it is. Used to be 5:30, and now it's 5.
And that's a race start time, 5:00 race start time.
Yeah, I mean that's when they're getting you over into your. I mean I think I was on the bus last time like before 2:45 in the morning. Pretty sure.
Yeah, they recommend that you be at the buses now for bus start at 2:30.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I think it's
that's
it's
like 11:30 at night my time.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that offline. But
Yeah.
when you were getting in, like the day before to run and head over to the expo, and then your clock would have to adjust, I was like, oh my god, you're going to be running at really 11:30 your time.
Yeah.
Or at least getting over there.
It's pulling at a college all-nighter. Okay, so recommendation, get on one of those first buses, I guess it sounds like, from what you guys have said.
I mean, you're one of the few people I've ever had that Walt Disney World weekend where you were in traffic coming from Saratoga Springs. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It took you a while. It took you about 40 minutes after I had gotten there to get there. That's pretty rare, I'd say, but I guess it can happen, depending on what bus you get on.
So Katie says for Wine and Dine every morning, we got on about 30 minutes after they started running, and it was completely fine. So don't feel like you have to get on the first one, but so there's a couple different options for you, I guess.
I think it all depends on the level of anxiety that you're comfortable with when it comes to getting to the race.
Or what you need to do ahead of time. How about the start area, the check-in area? Was that kind of the same where you went through, they checked your you went through like a security, and then was there a bag check? Was that all kind of similar as to previous races?
I would say it was all exactly the same.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I've never checked the bag. You check bags, right?
Yeah, I actually check a bag almost every race if like Katie and I are both running.
Is it
Uh,
free, Lake?
it is free, and
It is.
it's
That's right. Okay.
actually usually very easy. It is a little bit more complicated during wine and dine and races where the start and finish are in a different location because they have to physically drive your bag to another location. But it's very easy. You go, and when you check in, you get that clear bag. That's actually your bag check bag. Now, my recommendation is put a drawstring bag into that bag with all of your things, because then at the end of the race, you have a bag to carry anything, your food boxes, your water, all of that sort of
Mhm.
thing. But they basically write your bib number on the bag, and then they put a sticker on the back side of your bib, and that basically tells you what truck and what like bag number you are. So there's like, I think usually 5 or 6 different trucks, and they'll just say, hey, this is on the back of your bib, just remember you're truck number 1. And then after the race, it's right before you do go to the runners like meetup area. You just walk up to your truck, you say, hey, I'm bib number whatever, and most times they're like super on it and super organized. I noticed with Wine and Dine they were a little bit less so, but I've pretty much always had positive experiences overall, and they've never lost my bag or any of that. It's just been sometimes they're a little bit less organized.
Yeah, I love the bag check. It's nice to have something dry on after running either half or the full marathon or something like that. So,
I may do
especially on
that
those
next
cooler.
time. I never
Yeah.
do, but you know what? Generally, like I usually have my wife and my kids are at the finish line with the stroller, with the double stroller, and they usually can just carry anything they need that way. So
That's awesome. How about the corrals? Any changes as far as getting to the corrals and how that worked?
I I was so they're not even. I mean, they're not even calling them corrals now, right? It's like what
Start groups.
start groups. So I think we touched on this a little bit. When we were talking last time. I feel like they opened them up earlier than they generally do. I want to say. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. And for the first time, it could have been because I just witnessed it. I saw people run that were waiting at the entry to get into the corral. So you're kind of partitioned off until they allow you to go into your start groups, corrals, whatever you want to call them. And then once that opens up, people want to get placement to the front of their start group. Um, and that even can be a little bit tricky, like where you are in the start group, because of the way they move you around in there. But yeah, I mean, that was different, and I didn't understand it at all. Yeah, I didn't get it. I didn't get any of the start group stuff were doing for COVID. I preferred the old way. I was in like a worse corral. I was further back than I normally was. It was
I really think the whole start, like, I think the concept they had was that start groups was going to be more of a rolling start style. The problem is we were at Disney and we all have that hurry up and wait. And on top of that, this isn't like a local 5K where, the last person might be done in an hour. You're talking about a race that actually sweeps people. So on top of that, everyone wants to be the first in their corral because they want all of the extra time or they want lower lines for characters. So in theory, some sort of like rolling start, I think was more of what they were looking to do. But it just turned into bigger corrals with like more start groups. So I don't really see how it was like any different.
I I didn't get it. I mean, maybe something was lost on me. I didn't know. It was supposed to be better for protocol to keep people distance, and
No.
it didn't work.
I'll go ahead and just note that if you are someone who is, still conscious about the social distancing,
You'll get none of it.
first off, stay in the back of your corral, like plan to be the last group. Otherwise, you are going to pretty much end up sardined very close to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So be prepared for that. Once you're on the course, how did the character interaction work? Pretty similar to the past, just they're further away.
Yeah, almost exactly the same. The only difference is all of the characters basically have some sort of like little garden edging around them. So you kind of go and stand at the edge. My only kind of peeve with this is they needed to put like an X or like a marker for where they intended for people to stand. because what would happen is people would go to like the different sides of the character, and then the person who was doing the photography had to like readjust their settings every time to be like, oh, okay, now I gotta, refocus here. Whereas before, when you were next to the character, they could always just keep it as the same setting because it was the same photo every time. Or sometimes, like, there were spots that just wouldn't work. I think I was walking up to the Hades character, and the lady was like, "Oh, don't stand there, or the picture won't turn out." So you had to like go to the other side of him. So I think they would benefit from having like literally just like a circle. We know they have all those social distance circles. So if they laid a couple of those out for, hey, this is the best spot to stand for your picture, that would be fantastic.
That makes a lot of sense. Got another comment. Speaking of characters, so Katie says, if you like those before race pictures, so sometimes they have some of the characters out there or different things that you get pictures of early is better because the lines get long. Stephen E., I know you're a big bathroom person on the course. Plenty of bathrooms for those people running the first time.
Wait to out me. I got all the bathroom tips. I like it. So I was going to say the bathroom tips start when you get off the bus, because so there's a set of porta potties as you're getting off the bus that people tend to walk past and go towards where the action is. Do not pass up any kind of opportunity to go to a porta potty, because once you're in the start groups and the corrals and they're ready to start closing up the corrals, there's generally a big line. And it can get a little bit dicey if, because the reality is you are waiting in there, depending on how far back you are, for could be quite some time as all the other waves ahead of you are going, the elite and sub-elite athletes, all the folks that are ahead of me, which tends to be a lot. But anyway, point being, don't pass up an opportunity to use the bathroom. If you're, especially in the morning, you're trying to hydrate before you're about to run early, and you do not want to be in dire straits while you're out on the course. And like one of those folks that's a lot of people, when you'll notice, if you've never done it before, and the first half mile to a mile will run into the woods, and you're thinking, are they finding a special character I don't know about? and you're just going, nope, they're just trying to it's not magical what's happening in those woods. Let's just put it that way. So that's and then you're just using the regular old restrooms when you're on the course. Like
they have parks. I think compared to other races like that I've done, they've got so many more bathrooms. And the next topic too, food, water, Gatorade on the course is just so much more compared to some of the other big races I've run. Lake, do you recommend people bringing their own food or water? I guess it depends upon how you run and what you're used to, but they have plenty of stuff on the course, right?
Yeah. I mean, the common trope is, don't do anything new on race day. Now, with a RunDisney race, not everyone, is necessarily pushing their all out. This isn't, the Olympic trials. So if you want to make do with what they have on the course, or this is like your first half, or you've never done fueling before, one, I would recommend it and would recommend practicing it. I believe they will have the Stinger gels again, which has been their sponsor from Wine and Dine. Before it was the jelly beans. But I mean, yeah, the course support is really awesome for these races. You get water, it's like every mile and a half. And then for the half marathon, you get one set of the Stingers, just a little bit over halfway through usually. I do have that course map up. I guess I could tell you where that is. That is at literally right after mile 8 for the half marathon. So I'm someone who typically brings my own, because at mile 8, I would have needed to have fueled probably 2 times at least. Chews, not gels, is what Katie said, and she's right. Yeah, it's like they're like gummies, but if you've never had them, they're actually very easy to chew. They go down very easy. I do like those a lot. And then for the full marathon, see 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like 4 food stops. One at mile 9, mile 14, mile 17, and mile 21, and those ones do vary. I know at some point there's one with like bananas, and then they'll have the gels, and I think there might even be something else out there. I don't quite remember what all was out there last time.
I think the bananas are near Animal Kingdom. Steve, any thoughts on that? I know you're pretty technical.
I stay away from all that stuff, man. I don't mess with anything. Yeah, you know what it is? You want to watch a real nightmare and horror show unfold? Watch people go to food trucks before the race and get like a sausage egg biscuit. Those people, like, I want to go to the casino with those folks because they take high risks. I mean, you have to be really out of your mind. I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody, but you're like, yeah, you know what I'll do before 26.2? I'll have a sausage, egg, and biscuit at 3:00 in the morning.
I love it. Okay, finishing up the race, finish line, the medal process. Normally you come across, they give you the medal, you get your picture as you're coming across, and then they give you out some food and stuff like that. Anything changed there in that process, guys?
No, nothing. It was great. Even the contents of the packet, I didn't see that. Sometimes they give you like those little applesauce pouches. I remember that might have been in there at one point. But definitely the fake cheese and the the nachos. I don't know. I really can't eat after I have a beer, but I can't really eat after I got all that blood pumped away from my stomach for 2 hours plus. So I've never really had. I give it to my kids usually.
So I didn't realize you guys could see the questions too, so that's kind of cool. I'll answer the next one. Katie says they usually do the little chocolate bars later in the marathon, right? Yeah, that's like right as you come. There's like a little hill that you come up right behind the Tower of Terror, and they usually have
where a food spot's marked. So
yeah, they usually have like that's where you eat the chocolate. So I know, Katie, you're running the marathon this year, right? So look for your chocolate there. That was like one of my favorite parts about the marathon. Anything else, I guess, about just kind of the day of race stuff? Anything that differed from the past, or any other tips, guys?
No, I mean, we could probably get into like a slew of tips of what to do or how you want to run your race, or suggestions or stuff. I mean, I like a lot of people. There is a lot of waiting. So I like to try to just stay warm. Sometimes, you could do some stretching, some running in the parking lot. I don't know. I just don't like to run like all of a sudden just go out there cold. I like to warm up a little bit. But yeah, a million different things you can talk about on race day. But as far as like a logistical thing, I wouldn't say there's that much different than what it was aside from the start groups.
Okay. Anything else, like?
No. Like I said, if anyone has any more questions or want us to elaborate on anything, we'll happily circle back to it. But why don't we kind of keep going on here, and then we can answer any questions as they come up if they want some more race-specific stuff.
Okay. Do you think that's not going to work up to bring the maps up for the different races?
We can give it another go. I do have the maps open and ready, so that might work a little bit better since it's more of a stagnant picture. I think that might have been what
was causing the problem.
Yeah. Let's see.
Well, we'll give this a shot. We'll kind of we won't get through like every part of it, but I know there's a question about the half, so we'll kind of just get an overview of what the race courses look like for marathon weekend. They're a little bit different each weekend. So we'll start with the 5K. Like, you want to talk about that? I guess looks like it starts and ends at Epcot.
Yeah, this is the very typical Epcot 5K. You go out around the parking lot there, which is kind of cool. I actually like this because you can, like, if you just finished the race, you can go out and like watch people still start. That's what Katie and I did, which was a lot of fun. And then you go in through the back entrance of Epcot. You do a little backstage through Test Track there, and then you enter the park itself right after mile 1. There is a water stop at American Adventure there. It's actually moved. It was back behind Ratatouille for Wine and Dine, so that's kind of interesting. And then you hit mile 2 right after France. And I do really like that part. In the France Pavilion, you now come in kind of behind Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, so there's a cool picture where you're going like through the sign there. So that's really awesome. And then you actually go outside the park through the back gateway, and you go around the Skyliner, and then you you end up back in the park by the UK Pavilion. You kind of run the rest of World Showcase. You go out by Journey into Imagination, the land, the seas. You go under the Spaceship Earth, and then you're at mile 3 in the finish there. Very typical 5K course.
Okay, let's move on to the 10K.
I like can we just go back to the flex though for a second? Like, did you say you finished the race and you got to watch people start it?
Yeah, I mean that was like
I don't want to gloss over the fact that you realize. Yeah, he's like, I go out and run like a 23-minute 5K, and people are still starting the race.
Actually, it was a lot less dramatic because for the 5K, Katie and I just like walk ran it. Like we weren't going fast at all. It probably was like, I don't know, maybe a 45-minute 5K, and we finished, and then we kind of got out and we got to watch like the last maybe 10 minutes or so of people starting.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm just messing with you. I didn't want that to go above the audience's head to realize not everybody's going to catch a glimpse of the final waves unless they're Sonic the Hedgehog out there.
I'll give you a flex when we get to the full course.
All right, there you go.
Let's go into the 10K.
10K. I think this is probably the most interesting because I have never seen this 10K course, and I am so excited for it.
Yeah.
So just like all the other races, you start in Epcot, you go down Epcot Center Drive. I always like when you run out the Epcot sign, which it looks like you do. They typically play the Illuminations music out there. You're going to go down usually the slope that everyone hates doing during the half marathon course. You're going and doing the reverse of that. And you're going to go down World Drive for, looks like a little over a mile before you go ahead and you hit another loop there, and you'll go up the hill. And then you actually get to go and enter, and you'll run a very quick little section through Hollywood. There's also a water stop there. And then you're going to run the path between Hollywood and Boardwalk, and then you'll go down around Yacht Club, and you'll run a kind of quick section through Epcot. Instead of going around World Showcase, you're kind of going to finish the same way the 5K goes, where you go in through the UK Pavilion, back around all of the different areas by the land, under Spaceship Earth, and then you finish right out the front there.
Can I just say that is like one of my favorite things to do is running through Hollywood that really quick, and then that kind of pathway that cuts you back to the back part of Epcot where you go by the boardwalk and everything else. I don't know why, but I love that for some reason.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the best parts of running around Disney for sure.
That part just like always encompasses like your last, maybe 4 or 5 miles of the race. And like, it's just always vastly more interesting than like whatever you just ran typically.
Yeah, maybe that's it. 'Cause you're getting close to the end and that's why I like it so much. All right. How about the half? And we got another question. Well, Brian's got a question. We'll get to your question, Brian, once we get done with these, once we take a look at the different courses. So let's look at the half.
Yeah, that'll be a good question to go ahead and hit on then. But yeah, so half marathon I believe is pretty much exactly the same as half marathon as this half marathon course has been in the past. Maybe someone can correct me if I'm a little bit off there, but it looks to be exactly the same. Trying to think, I would have ran this course for Princess in 2019, which would have been the last time this course was ran actually. But you start in Epcot, you run down Epcot Center Drive, and reminder that this is going to be one of those races where the walk to get to the start is like almost a mile in itself. So make sure you prepare and are timely with that. And then if you're in one of those like earlier corrals, it's also kind of a hike to get up to your corral.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Epcot Center Drive to World Drive. This is basically the first 3 miles is all highway. There's usually character stops and whatnot along the way, which we'll kind of go back into with Brian's question here. Typically, the parking lot, the MK parking lot's kind of interesting, though. There tends to be like a lot of characters in quick succession there. I think for Princess, there was a scene with Mater and Lightning McQueen. And then right after that, there was, I think, Wreck-It Ralph and Vanellope with their race cars. And then right after that, there was like a whole triage of like villains, or I think it was villains or princesses right after that. So that's usually pretty cool. There's just a whole lot going on in that section. Hopefully that stays true and we'll see that again. But then you are back on the highway. This is a little more interesting than before because you get to go under the tunnel that takes you under the water there. You run by Contemporary. And then you're into Magic, which is probably the most iconic parts of this race. That's where you're going to get your castle pictures. You run down Main Street, all of that fun stuff.
Yep. And if you can get in there before the sun completely comes up, the castle's still lit up because there's still holiday decorations.
Yep.
And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can get some really cool pictures in there. And they usually even have a spot where you can stop and you can get like a dedicated, castle picture where there's not a whole bunch of people in the shot. So hopefully that'll still be there. But then you'll go out the back of the park. And this is going to put you at mile 6, so just about halfway there. And you run kind of back out this back area. Not super interesting until you get to like kind of the Grand Floridian golf course area. There tends to be some characters out there. Usually spectators are out cheering for you there.
Yeah, this part's brutal.
Yeah, then you're on for the long haul here. Mile 7 to basically about 10 or so is a lot of highway. And if you're later into the race or you start later, this is going to be the hottest part of the race as well. You will hit your food after 8. But then you really don't get off highway until you hit about mile 11. And at that point, you swing back into Epcot. And you just do a very quick in and out of Epcot. You basically just go in by the front. It's kind of around the seas you go in. And you kind of pop right under Spaceship Earth. And then you go in through that finish.
Katie's got a good point. If you have spectators that are with you, once again, anybody bringing family with, they can go into Magic Kingdom for free before the park opens. Just take the monorail over from Epcot. So, Brian, if your family's going to be there, they can be there. He's got a question. He says mile 8 through 11 is kind of tough for him. So that's like we're in that dead part of the highway. He talks about discouraging headphone use. What are your thoughts on that, Lake or Steve, as far as headphone use?
I use my AfterShokz. But I will tell you that's usually like for me, it tends to be where I'm kind of hurting a little bit, and anything I have in my headphones just kind of like fades into the background for the most part. But yeah, out on the road, and there's a lot of like bottlenecks during these races. You have to be really careful and just conscious of your surroundings. So I would definitely discourage using anything that's noise canceling. Where you can't hear any of your surroundings. I personally don't put anything in my ear, but the AfterShokz are great. You can hear everything perfectly fine.
I'm going to go ahead and say too, though, if, you're someone who's like very dedicatedly trained with that and, your music or even like your audiobook or something is part of what, gets you through it, just do it. Like we said, they're discouraged, but they are by no means not allowed. Many people, do it. So if that's what's going to get you through the most kind of boring part of that race, just do it. I mean, that whole section there is all open highway anyways. So you're going to have plenty of space. There shouldn't be like too much bottlenecking or any of that.
Yeah, there's some entertainment out there and stuff too. It's a rough stretch, This is just the 2-park course. I much prefer the 3 because it just breaks everything up a little differently. And it's tough to have the best part of the race, before even the halfway mark when you go through Magic Kingdom. So, but that's not to hate on the course. I mean, I like that it changes up. I wouldn't want it to be the same exact thing every time.
I think that might be a blessing. So then you don't look like death when you're running through Magic Kingdom. You have all those cool pictures.
Yeah. I look like death by about mile 0.75. So speak for yourself.
So some of my favorite parts on this course are between 2 and 3 when you can chase the monorail down. Usually we can beat those, right, Steve? Leave that in the dust. And then as you come to the castle, they will be, I've never stopped to take a picture, but they are going to take pictures of you. So if you have the photo package, there's going to be people like, I think in 2 different spots. So I guess as you come outside of the castle, be ready for that. Just be looking for them. You'll see them ahead of time. So if you want to, give it your best look or something like that, they can catch some great shots of you. Like there's an awesome picture of you running outside of the castle.
Steve, did you submit proof of time?
Yeah,
you did. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we I don't know if we talked about that briefly, but yeah, proof of time obviously would be how you get placed in those start groups. Okay, so you're going to be kind of further up there, huh?
Yeah, I think it was like if you had less than 2 hours in a half marathon, you could show that. Then they would move you up closer. I think the Run Disney people or the Club Run Disney people might be in front of us too. Maybe they're behind us. I don't know. No, I'm not going to be up with Lake. That's for sure.
Well, you
What,
guys will probably have about 2 or 3 beers.
Actually,
before I
I'll,
make
I'll
it
ask
there.
you after. I could probably tell you where you're going to be.
Okay. We're kind of 50 minutes in. Should we move on to the marathon?
Yeah. I'll try to make this one as possibly brief as I can as I pull up this whole big map here. Let me get some zoom on. All right. So this course is super cool, but it does have a whole lot going on. So you start the race same as the half marathon out on Epcot Center Drive. But basically, right after mile 1, you actually do a whole bunch of zigzagging and you swing into Epcot. What's really cool about this is you basically run down the tram track. So you were running like dead on into Epcot. So it's like just a really cool view, especially if they're going to have the ball doing like all the glowing effects and stuff, which I hope they do. So you're basically in a park by like mile 2.5 or so. You get to do a nice little kind of loop around Epcot there. And you actually go back out through the cast member entrance in the back, and you go and you swing back around to Epcot Center Drive. So this is typically the part where I like you're running through, and there's still people starting on the side of you there. So that's kind of cool, and like everyone's usually high energy because they're ready to start the race. So they're all like cheering for everyone running by. Kind of a very cool, like interesting interaction there. Very typical to the half marathon where you see people kind of going in the opposite directions down World Drive there. But then you swing kind of back onto Epcot Center Drive. You go down to World Drive. And this kind of mimics the half course pretty closely for this part. You go down. Actually, there are some differences here. You run through the parking lot kind of a different way. And some of this may have to do with like the new roads and whatnot that are there. But you go through the parking lot, and then you're going to go back through Magic Kingdom, pretty much the exact same way as the course. So you'll get your Main Street, you'll go through some of the lands, get your castle pick, all of that. You go back out the same way as the half marathon, down by Grand Floridian, all of that. Now, where you change here is you go down the back side, or the back road behind Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom. I think it's like Bear Creek Road is the name of that road. And you run. I like this part. It's kind of like wooded and enclosed. It's a really interesting part. This is kind of the first few miles of the other half course that Steve brought up a couple times there. So you run kind of all the way down to Animal Kingdom here. I'm getting out of breath here trying to explain this all. You run a little bit, very quick in and out through Animal Kingdom. It does look like you still run by Everest, so if the park is open, I'm going to assume they will still allow you to attempt to ride it if the park's open, but don't hold me to that. You never really know, but in the past, you've been able to ride attractions if the park has been opened and you run by them. So then you swing back out of Animal Kingdom, and you kind of double back up that Bear Creek Road, and you go up to the road that takes you by Coronado. I can't remember what it's called. But this is like the worst part of this race. So like this is the part that I just remember being like, okay, this is pretty awful. I was bonking pretty hard. And like this whole 19 to 20 is like just a slight uphill all the way. And it is just like terrible.
Like, didn't it used to go through ESPN, right?
Yes. So in 2019, they changed the marathon course to something pretty close to what this is. I think there are some slight changes. So I never ran the course that went through ESPN.
Yeah.
But that used to take you out Animal, and then you ran all of Osceola.
Exactly, yeah. This is better, I think.
Yeah, I will give both of the marathons I did went through ESPN, and it had like I liked the loop around Epcot to begin with, because they had this like out and back too before you got to ESPN. So you went all the way out on this road and you came back where it's just like straight. They're just putting miles in there. So I like the creativity here, but ESPN, I don't know, man. That was not my favorite part. The best part about it was it finished up. You get to run like around the baseball stadium that the Atlanta Braves used to use, and then out. But it was a lot of just winding around different ball fields. So I don't know. That was like my least favorite part of the marathon, I think.
Oh, Christy actually just messaged me and said she believes Everest is going to be down for refurb during that time, so you may not be able to get on Everest. But anyways, so you do that long slog there, and you turn and actually go towards Blizzard Beach. Now, this doesn't actually look like it has you running through Blizzard Beach, which you did do in 2019. I'm actually somewhat okay if they cut that part out. It was interesting to run through it. However, the way Blizzard Beach is designed is it's like a lot of really hard turns on a path that's maybe 4 feet wide.
Not good.
So yeah, it's like running through a maze. It really was. Like there were points where you were turning like probably 340 degrees to go down another path, and you know, for me it wasn't a huge deal. It was annoying because you're making all these turns, but if you're in a congested like area with a lot of people, that would be absolutely terrible. So I get why they would cut that out. But then you are gonna keep following. I can't even remember. That's Epcot Resorts Boulevard. I think it might be called something different on that side of the road. But you're going to run that up, and then you're kind of back onto normal finish here, where you're going to go and do your little in and out through Hollywood. You run
Get your chocolate.
Get your chocolate, yep. Right there, right before mile 23. You're going to go down the path between Epcot and Hollywood. You were going to go around Boardwalk side this time. For the 10K, you go around Yacht Club. And then you're going to go, and you're actually going to go almost all the way around World Showcase, which is pretty nice. And then it looks like the finish. Okay, yeah, it is like basically the normal finish then. There's lots of crisscrossing of different parts of the course here with that early part and then the end. But it's the same finish that you'll see for all the races.
I think that's a better marathon layout, in all honesty, than the two that we ran. So I like that. Looking forward to it next year when we're going to run it again.
Fun fact, the last time it was run, at some point they cut it short because it was an unbelievably hot day for a marathon.
Yep, they cut the Animal Kingdom part out. So right there between like mile 15 and 19, they cut all of that out. And then they also, I believe, cut part of Blizzard Beach out and just sent you to the left.
It's pretty unusual at that time of year to have it as hot as it was 2 years ago. And I ran the half. But I mean, you know, you're out there for the marathon and you're out there 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12, whatever it is when you're finishing. For some folks, I mean, it was in the 80s that day. People were not doing too well, so they had to cut it short. I think they had several people getting dehydrated and going to medical tents and stuff. So
that was a hot day.
Yeah, be prepared. You're still in Florida. You never know. You never know. Rough running weather here sometimes.
I guess one other thing to touch on with Brian's question about entertainment, I think they do a pretty good job. Generally, there's always something going on. You do get to some stretches where there's nothing around, but generally, a lot of times you'll see bands, like high school bands around there. They've got a couple different spots where they put giant projection screen TVs up there, or some kind of, will they be running cartoons and music and stuff? Anything else you guys can think of besides just the characters on the course?
Yeah, remember when I did Star Wars, when you'd first go out, they'd have like you'd be in the middle of like this, battle scene, with like, you'd hear like the lasers and stuff. That was really cool.
The scene for Wine and Dine was really cool too, actually, with the bubbles.
Yes, it was. Yeah. They do a pretty good job of starting things out, and consistently putting entertainment out there on the course. It didn't feel less when this past event. I thought we would see significantly less and kind of reduced. It didn't feel that way to me at all.
No, and actually I was very impressed with the amount and the quality of the characters from Wine and Dine. It does typically work in about a ratio of 1 per mile. Now it's not necessarily staggered that way, but there very well could be more. Like I said, that area of the parking lot for MK tends to have a whole bunch of stuff going on, and there are some usually like 2 or 3 different character areas, like through Magic Kingdom as well. But like I said, typically the ratio that I think they look for is about 1 per mile. But that doesn't tend to include, they usually have the various different DJs out there. Like you said, the bands tend to be out there. Usually there's like some different cast member like groups out there. Like they have the Society of Explorers. They tend to be out for most races. The construction workers have been out for a lot of races as well. They'll typically go wherever there's construction. They're just like cast members who are being comedic about construction.
Steve's favorite, the Green Army men out there yelling at you.
Yeah, I
They
love
were
that
out there
guy.
last night.
Yeah, when he's on the hill there as you're coming up, going towards at least on the marathon when the old when you're going towards Hollywood Studios. So we're kind of an hour in, guys. We're gonna try and hit on the springtime stuff. Do you want to touch on that, or should we save that for the next one, or what do you guys think?
Oh, we could talk about a bunch. We could save some of it for the next time. I think we did a pretty good run through of everything leading up to this. What do you guys think?
Yeah, we can kind of just like maybe wrap up with the fact that that happened, and if any of us signed up for anything there.
Yeah, so I ended up signing my wife and I up for the 10K. I think it's like Ratatouille themed 10K. It's that Saturday. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. I would have liked to do a few more of them, but at least we'll be out there for Ratatouille on Saturday. I thought the 10 miler and the 5K both look cool. I mean, the 5K is the nighttime race, and that's pretty cool that they're bringing that back.
Yeah, it's also like some sort of like scavenger hunt type of thing as well. Like there's some whole other like participation element in it that I'm excited to try.
Yeah, I think it was a smart move for them to have that weekend. That again, if you really love Star Wars, I'm sorry, and you missed that weekend. But honestly, it didn't really sell out often. It was one of the few that it would take a while, or sometimes really wouldn't at all.
I don't think it really ever sold out.
Yeah, and so their goal of these things is to get them to capacity. Having something rotating in there is probably real good for them, and I appreciate it. And I don't know, maybe we'll see Disneyland races come back if the city of Anaheim and Disneyland ever get along.
We'll see about that.
Doubtful.
But Katie and I both signed up for the challenge for it. I mean, you've got 3 pretty interesting sounding races, and it's the first time that the challenge for a non-marathon weekend race includes all of the races. It usually doesn't include the 5K, so that's pretty cool. Excited for that.
Yeah, I saw the price of it, and then I was like, wow, that's a lot for 2 races, and then realized it was all 3.
Yeah.
So it didn't have quite the shock. But yeah, it should be fun.
It's a little too close to spring break for us, so we've already got spring break plans, so it's going to be tough. Hopefully next year we'll try and get down there, because I'm kind of intrigued by the couple different races there. That 10 miler, the Twilight Zone one, I think that's a great mileage for people that want to go push themselves a little bit past that 5 and 10K, but may be a little intimidated by doing the half or the full. I've done the Army 10 miler several times, and I don't know what it is about 10 miles. I ran 10 miles today, actually, and I think that's like a perfect run when you're starting to do a little bit more distance. So I think it's cool that they're adding that. I don't know if that'll be every year, but I like to see them doing something a little bit different. And I think that 5K, I can't wait to see what you guys do for that scavenger hunt.
Yeah, that's definitely the race I think I'm most intrigued by, because I just don't really know what to expect with it.
And it's Thursday is the 5K, and then Saturday, Sunday are. So one of my other concerns was I thought they were doing the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I thought it was a Friday night race followed by a Saturday morning race, which would have been kind of tough to turn that around. But it's Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So what's going to be weird is I'm assuming they have the Expo open starting on Wednesday. and then they'll have it open for Thursday and Friday, and there's not going to be any race going on Friday. So it'll be the same Expo schedule as, like, I guess, Marathon Weekend, where they have it open from Wednesday through Saturday. That'll be open for springtime.
I guess 2 more things to throw out there. The 5K is sold out. The 10K is still open, although I may have to, if that medal's as cool as it looks, Steve, I may have to, like, maybe bid some money against your medal for you or something like that. So you'll sell it to me.
I don't even know where my medals are.
But anyways, the 10K is still open. The 10 miler is still open, and there is a proof of time option for that too. So if you think you're going to finish it in an hour and 30 minutes or less, you can actually move up in the start groups there for the 10 miler. But the surprise challenge, the Run Disney Springtime Surprise Challenge, is sold out. So good on you and Katie for getting in that late, because that sold out quickly, I guess.
Yeah, the 5K and the challenge the 5Ks usually sell out. The challenges don't always sell out as fast as this one did, but because they included the 5K in the challenge, and the 5K is the least capacity race, they had to, split up regular registration and challenge bibs. We did see that sell out super, super fast. So I really don't know anything about, like, what this capacity is going to look like. Again, especially with all these special elements in the night race that they're incorporating, it's very possible that, like, the 5K has a very limited amount of people overall.
So,
we'll see.
Katie made a good point. I guess the Springtime Surprise opens on Thursday. It doesn't open on Wednesday. So you'd have to go to the Expo for all the runners for the 5K. You have to go on Thursday.
Interesting.
That makes sense. Okay. All right. They're not going to open it Wednesday. Oh, interesting. We'll see you at Wine and Dine next year too, Steve. There you go.
Wine and Dine.
That's the goal.
Wine and Dine is my next goal, and then the Spring Challenge after that. So
it's becoming the one I would not skip. Walt Disney World Marathon Weekend's going to be fun to see everyone. I feel like there's just more. I feel like the capacity's higher. Like, for some reason, I feel like there's just.
It does tend to be that, and Princess are, like, the biggest two numbers wise.
Yeah, it just seems to be the way it is, and that course can get a little crowded as is, at least where you're starting from the middle or back corrals. But got to get up there with you, Mike.
Told you I'd pace you.
Let me work on my my running, and then I'll talk about pacing.
As soon as you're ready, let me know. I'll do it.
Let me knock.
Doesn't even have to be Run Disney. We can just do, like, a regular race.
Hey, there's some great ones around here. I want to do a Gasparilla one day over in here in Tampa. It's supposed to be a great race.
That always happens Princess weekend.
Yep. I'm not running Princess this year, so we'll see.
And Lake and Katie are going to be on the Magic, so he could pace you around deck 4 as well too. So if you want to do that.
Yeah, we're doing Princess and then getting on the Magic the next day.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think, are we about ready to close it out here? Does anyone have anything else they want to kind of throw out there? I think the consensus is that we're going to try to do maybe one more show before Marathon Weekend, and then maybe we'll come back and, like, do a little recap afterwards.
Yeah, and I always want to talk. I like to talk about other details, just like specific to running, training, gear, all sorts of fun stuff. So if there's other questions that are, like, just kind of run specific questions, like how to prepare, first time or otherwise, because I know in the last couple of years I've definitely learned a lot of lessons when it comes to, just personally what I feel comfortable in running, and shoes, all that fun stuff. I'm always sending you guys deals too. Like, I'm on it with the run gear. I'm a big believer in making sure you have great shoes and do not hold back, with your spending for your shoes, because you will pay dearly if you do. But so even if there's any suggestions or other feedback of stuff that people want us to cover, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, as always, feel free to add any other questions you have in the comments. Most of the time, we'll probably just reply with a message there, but some things we may go ahead and just answer on our next show. But kind of what Stephen was getting at is, I think next show maybe we'll talk a little bit more specifically about kind of us and our prep for the races, training, gear, things we bring with us, all of that sort of stuff, and kind of really get you get some of like our tips rather than like the general overview of the races. So anything else to add there?
No, nothing else from me. It was fun overcap or overview for everybody to kind of get ready for marathon weekend and look forward to our next show. This is a good time to get together with you guys too.
Yeah, well, we'll go ahead and we'll post whenever we decide to do the next show. We'll put posts out on all our different pages there. So look forward to that, and make sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell for wherever we're watching this, so you can find this on the DCL podcast page as well as on our channel MouseGen. And if you do or don't follow either one of those, go and follow the other one because they're both super great. Steve has an awesome show, all sorts of different crews and other Disney variety content there. We've listened to his show for years, even before kind of starting our own channel. So would definitely recommend. And if you guys are going to be at Marathon Weekend, let us know. We are going to be around. I'll be at all the races, and we'll be through the parks and all that fun stuff. So make sure to stop by and say hi as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think we might have like a little meet and greet too, or not meet and greet, but like a meet up if anybody can make it up. I think we're thinking about going to Epcot Saturday night. So if anybody, although Lake and Katie will be getting up early for the marathon, so I'm not sure they're going to be out there too late. But
we might do a quick pop by.
Yeah, we'll get that out there too if anybody's hitting the parks afterwards. So this is super fun, guys. Thanks for doing this, Steve and Lake.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you guys, and we will see you guys on our next show. And once again, thanks again for everyone who tuned in and anyone who's coming and rewatching or re-rewatching for anyone who's real into that. And we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Cheers,
Take
guys.
care.